Hi, it's Jen, and I'm here back with another update on how I'm doing after week 2 of GameJam is now over. So this week was a great week. I ended up finding a developer to work with who has been helping me fix my code. So a lot of the things I had gotten working, I had come up with kind of like bad solutions for. And my attempt at creating object classes and using object properties and methods was not always successful, and a lot of times I still had to resort to like global variables and conditionals to get the game functioning the way I wanted it to. So I have been able to find a developer who is willing to work with me and take the time to like help me learn how to set up a GitHub and use sourcetree to be able to share our code back and forth. And she's been able to go in and fix my syntax and get my character classes properties and methods to like work the way they're supposed to, so that the global variables that I created just to get my game functioning were able to get replaced with the object properties that were designed to be in there but like weren't working because I didn't know what I was doing well enough to get them to work. So I'm super happy about that. I worked on the sprites some more, and I worked on some background. So in the past, I have used just kind of modified photos that I find on like free websites like Unsplash, and modify them and run them through some heavy filters to try to make them look a little more stylized. Because this game has some point and click elements to them, I'm building all the backgrounds from scratch. So one of the things that I was trying to do to kind of like save time for myself and other projects, because I wasn't super interested in drawing backgrounds, I've actually been having kind of fun drawing these backgrounds. It's kind of a two-step process. So I start by drawing and painting most of the background in Procreate, and then I export it as a PSD and bring it into Photoshop. And whenever I do this, there's always some weird like just I don't know why, just little weird abnormalities that when I bring it over, I notice that like sometimes where I painted doesn't go to the edges or it goes over the edges, and it always looks a little more sloppy than when I had it in Procreate. So I'll have to go in and kind of smooth away some of these weird like little brush edges that didn't quite translate well when it got converted. And after I do that, I'll do some level adjustments to kind of give the image a little bit more atmosphere. So right now, like the values being like kind of like the shadows are pretty much where I want them to be, but like the hues, like kind of where the colors fall on the RGB spectrum, are not quite where I want them to be, just atmospherically. And this step I have a hard time doing in Procreate because it just doesn't have as many tools as Photoshop. So in Photoshop, I'll go in and I'll really like play around with like colors to try to get more of that mood that I'm talking about. And I'll usually use quite a few layers to get that to happen. So in this case, I started out with just kind of a soft light because I know that I wanted to have a little bit more of like kind of a purpley hue to it there somewhere, with the light source being kind of more of a little bit like a green. So like green and purple are opposite on the color wheel, and they are very good like complementary together. So that's kind of where my mindset is going with like trying to give it a little bit of a purpley green hue. And then after I created kind of this soft light, I was like, well, I want to darken the kind of the edges a little bit more. So I went in and I did a multiply layer with that purple to kind of give a little bit more shadow, a little more focus to the center of the image. And then I wanted it to be darker, so I went in with a color burn to kind of darken it and give a little more vibrancy to where that light is. And then my final steps were to lighten it back up again, because then this part was just a little bit too dark. And this is kind of like the final feel of the image that I want. So I'm pretty happy with the way that the colors now look, the hues look, and it just, I think it gives it a little bit more of a moody and dramatic lighting. And I am by no means a painter or like a very good at coloring. So, I'm sure somebody who's more of a landscape artist, who's more of a concept artist, would be able to do like, a better and more efficient way of like coming up with like atmospheric lighting. But I come from a cartooning background, a comic books background, where I used to draw most of my comics in black and white, black and white printed manga kind of stuff. So the way I tend to think is in just strictly like line and shadow, like line and black and white values. So that's kind of why I go through this process in order to get something like this at the end, versus like some people who come from a more painterly background who might have like hues more kind of like built into their mindset, can kind of like work with these like colors from the get-go. That's just kind of a way that I compensate for some of the things that I'm not as good at, that take a little bit more effort for me to achieve. I have to think like more consciously about it. So as far as like the game programming has been going, this is where I'm actually going to be putting that background gateway image. So I haven't put it in there yet, as I was just tweaking that before this chat. In fact, I can probably drop it in. Let's go ahead and export this. And it's not best practice to have them as PNGs, since like the JPEGs are more compressed, but I just don't like using JPEGs because they are lossy compression. And so every time you make a change to a JPEG, or even resave it without making a change, it's going to lose more of its qualities because it's going to do that kind of compression algorithm. And I just don't like using them. So I'm sorry if my projects are like kind of large because everything's like a PNG. And I have so many versions of this thing now that I have it in GitHub as well, so my brain just stopped, and it's like I don't know what I'm doing anymore. Okay, save to images and to backgrounds, and so hopefully wow. Is really struggling. Okay. Let's go ahead and save. Actually, can I go ahead and just refresh? I'm gonna show the background? No. Oh, I probably didn't name it the way I needed to name it or something. Let's see, where do I have it in this script? Where did I define it? I think in my scenes. And this is in scene 2. No, scene 3 is when they reach the gate. So BG gateway with fade, I have that there. And then, did I actually define it? I feel like I didn't define the image. No, I probably didn't. So let me go ahead and do that. Image BG gateway equals images /BG /BG underscore gateway .png, and let's try saving that. And let's go back to this. It's not here. It isn't on my images though. Or did I save it to the wrong project? Because like I wouldn't put it past myself to do that. Why is this like in a separate window? Oh, I didn't save it. Did I save it? I'm so I move back and forth between Mac and PC a lot because at work I work on a Mac, and then at home I have a PC. So I have this problem where some of the shortcuts, just because like Command and Control are in different places on Mac and PCs, so you'll notice like sometimes I'll do things that are not very efficient. Like if I'm saving a file, I will like go and do like a, like instead of using like a shortcut in order to save it, I will like use the drop down to save it, because I'm like, did I save that? Did I do Control S, or did I do Command, like where the Command S, would be? Because I'm always moving back and forth, and sometimes my fingers are just like in the wrong mode. They're like, I'm in PC mode. Okay, so this is here. EG. Yeah, it's probably something stupid that I'm like not getting. We see it here. It's a working image. Look at that scene again. I'll close this big stupid nightmare. I don't know why you don't see it. My brain is just breaking. I don't know why. It's not seeing. I feel like that's the correct syntax, so I don't understand why. If it's saved. Okay, so for whatever reason, where I saved that file was not where, it was like after where the image loads, so that was stupid, and making a lot of stupid work for myself. So, alright, now we have our background in the scene. I should have done this before the video started, but now you get to see what my process is like and where the weird, quirky hang-ups that I can get stuck on. As something as simple as like, oh, I saved the game like after the scene was loaded, and that's why it wouldn't refresh. Yes, because I had to go back a step. So yeah, little quirks. There's some things I'm not happy with using this PNG sequence. I think I need to make kind of similar to what I had in the last one, where it loads up like the sprites like at a certain point in the cycle, and doesn't let you move it until it kind of reaches the end of its cycle, so that it doesn't do any weird movement frames. And so the sprites will probably have some tweaking, but I have those project files still saved here, so it shouldn't be too hard to make adjustments in the future. But they are working, so that's kind of where I've gone with my progress on the story end, and then on the game functionality end. So last time I had just kind of this leader working, and I had the inspection option working, and now I have the action and the movement working, as well as the inventory working, and the notes and the map, although I don't have the compass there for whatever reason. I just forgot to make it show, so I've got to do that because it's actually it's actually there. It's just not I just didn't like program it to show for whatever dumb reason, so gotta go back in and do that. So now we have the action button. Let me go ahead and switch to Joe. And now that we have the axe in our inventory, we should be able to reveal this little patch of drier branches that we couldn't get to work last time. So here we go. Let's go ahead and pick up the key. And open the door. For some reason the key's not showing up, but it did before, so I'll have to go back and see what I broke. And now we have the movement option to move when before we had nowhere to go. And this was me just like testing sprites in the next room and stuff. I had to kind of readjust their size because they weren't taking up enough space on the screen. That was the advantage too of like making my sprites larger than I needed them to be. So I knew I wasn't going to need to have their feet showing. Originally I cropped the sprites to be kind of more around the thigh, because I was thinking to myself, well, that's where I want the image to show kind of from the thigh up. And then I ended up using all this extra because I didn't want this text box to go to the very bottom, and I didn't want to have them kind of show that they're cropped when there's like little transitions where like windows might be appearing or disappearing. So I'm very glad that I went ahead and just took the little bit of extra time to make them full body, so that even though majority of the time these legs are covered up, I have the option, I have the freedom of like being able to size them how I want and not have to worry about there being like this awkward moment during a transition where you might see that they're cropped. I have reworked my time frame schedule. This whole kind of demo portion, this whole portion here of like trying to just get the leader mechanic working and all of my elements working. This room is kind of just a mock room. It's not. I'll be using this background and some of the stuff, but like this scenario doesn't actually happen because according to the script, the majority of the first level exploring, the protagonist is by themselves, but I wanted to have the companion in here so that I know that I could get all these parts working. So all of this will have to kind of get redone in order to actually match what I have on paper. So in some ways I'm just starting I'm just starting at the beginning of week 2 on the actual like real script of the project. Of course I have like a lot of assets done. I still have another like huge background to do, and I have to do modifications to this background. And I have to do some more sprite animations. And I do have another character sprite that I have to do. Another 2 character sprites that I have to create. So I'm feeling pretty confident of where I'm at going into week 3, but I'm not feeling like overly confident. We'll see how things go from here, and yeah, we'll see how things check in when I update next week. So have a great week and enjoy that process. All right, bye.